Hello, one and all, and welcome to another episode of Baggers Chat. My name is Mitch Pattinson, and as always, I'm joined by Ethan Duffy. And of course, today it is a bit of a new episode that we've brought to our minds, which is, of course, Baggers at the Bye. So this is a bit of a episode where we kind of go through what we've seen this season in 2023. But first things first, Daff, how are you, mate?
I'm going well, mate. We touched on it before the episode started that, geez, the buys suck. We talk about, it's great to have a mental break, but realistically, we've got to Friday and I want Baggers footy. I was watching last night and I was falling asleep. I just want to feel the stress and anxiety of watching Carlton play footy. So, I'm feeling good, mate. And, you know, we're looking at this second half of the year with hopefully a little bit of promise, but we just don't know. We just need to see it more consistently.
Yep. And it's an absolute freezing day in Melbourne today. It's absolutely freezing. It's raining outside. It's your classic Melbourne winter's day. So I'm freezing. I'm absolutely freezing that for boys. So, of course, we'll go through a few, I guess, questions that we'll kind of see what we think, what our opinions are. A few, I guess, segments that will transition through the episode. But first things first, we'll start off with where we are right now in the ladder, which is, of course, 14th on the ladder. With 5 wins, 8 losses, with, of course, a 1 draw, and our percentage is at 98.1%. Right now, just a kind of an initial thought on the actual ladder position. 14th on the ladder. Of course, it's a very disappointing start to the season. But what do you think is the main thing as to why we are in this position, and also what do you think we could try and change towards the end of the season? Of course, reflecting off last week's game against Gold Coast and seeing that positive, how can we use that energy from that win to try and transition ourselves to maybe a finals, maybe seeing us in the finals, but if not, just trying to end the season well? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, obviously the position we're in is not ideal. It's been a pretty terrible season. We have to say that. We can't really sugarcoat it at all. You know, we can celebrate the win last week, but that's 1 win out of 7 games, which is not really where we want to be currently. But yeah, you look at our position. What frustrates me the most is, you know, we always say it, we drop these games where when it comes to the back end of the year, you need to be winning those games earlier in the year, makes it easy for it to make finals. But now we're on an uphill battle. We need to win 7 out of the last 9. But personally, you look at the next 9 games or so, and you go, geez, we're a chance. But it's just, you don't know what Carlton is going to produce in those games. That's the unfortunate truth right now. We'll see. Our percentage isn't too bad. I reckon that West Coast game almost saved their ass a little bit in terms of percentage. But right now, it's a circuit breaker, that Gold Coast win for mine. I think it's a bit of a breath of fresh air, heading to the bye with a bit of positivity behind us and showing how we can win games of footy. Because we've got Hawthorne next week.
Yeah.
Realistically, you know, obviously we'll touch on that in the preview, but it has to be a win. Like, it's not, you know, I'm not saying it's going to be a lock, but expectations-wise, we have to keep them high, because otherwise we're just going to be accepting 12th, 11th position by, you know, the year's end. So, ladder position, not great at all, but can fix it quickly.
Yeah, spot on. I know that, like, next week's game against Hawthorn, we as supporters need to see that game as we just need to win that game. There are a lot of experts and a lot of, I guess, mutual supporters that would see that game being like, Hawthorn's in a pretty good spot, and we're not going to go into this game expecting a win, but we need to win. We need to win that game because a lot of teams this year after their bye have not actually won the game after. So we just need to try and change that. And if we can get that win, we can really just see what happens. Like, that's the thing. Like, we've seen stranger things happen in our life, and if we could just get this win and really get on a run, maybe 3 or 4 wins in a row, who knows? So, of course, the first thing we'll touch on is, and I know that there aren't a lot of games that come to mind, Duffy boy, but if you were to put your finger on one game this year, what do you think would be your favourite game so far?
Wow, yeah, it's tough to really put. There's been not many good wins, really, have there? There's been some really, you know, drag over the line type of wins, but it's sad to say. Well, I did say, the Geelong win second round was good, but I feel like it's kind of gotten worse as the week's gone on in terms of how we've played. So for me, I think it's kind of a reflective performance of the way we played last year. I think it was last week's win against the Suns, not particularly because of the opponent, because, they're not superb, right? They're, middle of the road. They're playing decent footy. But I think it was the way we did it for Moen. I think it was dominant. It was halftime and I knew we won. If we could consistently kept playing the way we did, I don't think we'll play like that this year.
No.
And really put the foot down on a team and, won by, I know we beat West Coast by 100 odd, but I think they've lost to almost every team in the AFL by over 100. So, good win for the Sun. Good win against the Suns. And hopefully that is the circuit breaker when we look at round 24, we go, gee, that was it. That was the penny dropping moment for this side, and the confidence grew from there.
Yeah. So I was actually about to go for Gold Coast for my favourite game, just because at the end of the year, we can kind of look back and maybe if we do make finals, we don't know. But as you said, we could look at that game and be like, that was the start of this rejuvenation within the side. But one of the games that come to mind, and it's probably the one game that made me most excited, and that was after the Geelong game, because especially the way that we were kind of playing and the team that we beat at the time, like that was a big thing because we just beat the reigning premiers. And the way we were playing, it's all like at the time we were both looking at it and we were like, we weren't playing our best football. So we knew that there was so much more to come. But of course, we haven't really seen that throughout the season. But I reckon that's probably the one game that comes to mind, just because we kicked 90 points as well. Charlie Curnow played well. There were just a few guys out there that played really well, and it made me excited as a supporter because I'm like, well, we had a draw against Richmond the week before. We just beat the reigning premiers. We're going into Giants next week. Excited as a supporter. So that's probably the one game that comes to mind. But now we'll look into probably the more realistic way to look at a season, especially our season that we've had so far. It is the worst loss so far in the season. So there's a lot of games that come to mind, whether it's down to the way that we lost, whether it was maybe down by like 56 points against Adelaide, or if it was just a game that you have to win and we didn't get the job done. Worst loss so far, Duffy boy, what do you think you would say?
Yeah, there's been plenty to choose from. I was looking through them all. There's plenty of bad ones that could be on this list, but for mine, I think it was the nail in the coffin kind of moment, and it was the Essendon loss. There was something about that game where I just thought we are unable to play a good brand of footy against a side who is beatable, in my opinion. I think they scored 86 and beat us by 4 goals. We had 18 more inside 50s. I'm like, we can't win games, whether we like it or not. We can get plenty of the ball, but what's the point? And obviously I went with you to that game, and gee, it was bad that third quarter. I know it was good by them. Obviously they knew if they hit us hard after half time that it was going to be over, and they did that because we had nothing to answer for. And there's plenty of bad wins, bad losses that you could go through. But yeah, that one hurts because I think I might have said it to you on the night that it's almost a switch of last year that we beat them comfortably and they were in a bad position. And now both teams are kind of switched, and obviously S8 and they beat us comfortably without even really getting a second or third gear. So hopefully we've seen the back of that, and hopefully we have a positive end of the year.
Yeah, isn't it crazy that we're round 15 going into round 16 next week, and we're still hoping of what we're going to expect on the weekend for the Carlton Football Club. So my worst loss, and I was about to put Collingwood and say that was by far the worst loss just because of their stakes and the rivalry, but it's the game after that, and that was against Sydney. So, of course, through that week, there was so much shit going on with, I think that was when Luke Sayers came out and said, blah, 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 we're not happy with where we are in the position. Michael Voss also, after the game against Collingwood, his press conference, actually seeing some emotion. I was like, is this the start of something? And the week after, when they were going up against the City Swans, a very undermanned team, they didn't have a back line. They had buddy Nick Blakey on Harry Mackay, and we lost by 26 points. So we'll move on. We'll move on from that. We'll now get into a little bit more of the positive things. We'll try and focus on a few individual moments throughout the year. So best player, Daff, I think it's pretty obvious who we're going to say. There might be 2 or 3 players, but At the halfway point, who's your best player?
Best player by the length of the Flemington Straight is Adam Chera. I hope that gap closes in the next 10 weeks because I want some of these players to lift with him as well. I think he's he's definitely been our best player all year, and I think he's clear in the BNF. And he showed why we're, paying him the big bucks and brought him in on a high pick in terms of trade value. But yeah, no, I really like the way he goes about it. I thought he had a bit of a hot and cold year last year, in my opinion, in terms of impact. I just think that's due to the team playing really well and him kind of getting into that Carlton system. But yeah, for me, I think Ches has been phenomenal.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it was probably down to maybe Chera or even a Charlie Curnow. But even when we spoke about at the start of the episode, the stats, I guess, in terms of goals with Charlie is he's kicked around the same sort of, and he's had the same kind of start to the season, but he hasn't really dominated other than that West Coast game. He hasn't really dominated consistently. So, like, say last year we had like Western Bulldogs game where he kicked 5. There was a few other games. I think there was also one against maybe Giants where he kicked a lot of goals as well. There were games that kind of came to mind, and they were like consistently always performing in other areas as well. When say this year, I don't think he's still been very good. Don't get me wrong, but I think it's in a way where his impact wasn't as big as last year, and whether that was down to his expectations last year, his first season back, we saw his season as like unbelievable, and this year we were expecting more, and he hasn't lived up to those expectations. I don't know, but I think he's still been quite solid. I mean, he's still leading the fucking Common, so he's still up there. But I think the best player by a country mile, as you said, the length of the Flemington Straight, is Adam Chera. So, of course, we'll now move on to the most improved player. This might be the same name, but there might be a few players in your mind, Duffy Boy, that may have improved the most out of any player in the Carlton Football Club. But one player, Daff, who do you think?
I think, we can say Ches, obviously clearly the most improved, but I'll just give you another name. I think it's Brodie Kemp for mine.
Yeah.
I don't think we were expecting him to be in this side for that long as a key backman, as a second key back. But I think, as you see right now, I think he's ahead of Lewis Young, in my opinion. He can play tall. What is he, 6'4"? Played on Levi Casbolt on the weekend. That's a big man. So you're going to be coming up against forwards of that size, and he looked like he plays well. And what I like about him is he's willing to intercept mark, but also play forward, like in terms of just go forward and use his skills by foot. I think it's the modern day kind of, key back has to be good by foot. And I think, like we've been saying, Wiedering has been the focal point in terms of kicking from defense. And I think Wiedering's ability in the last month or so to be able to just use his vision and hit targets has given the backline confidence again with ball in hand, which is good to see. And obviously see it's worked for Brodie Kemp.
Yeah, spot on. I was about to say Kemp. There are a few names, aren't there? So there's obviously like a Kemp, Chera. You can put even the Hollands in there, but you can't really use him as most improved because it's his first season in the AFL. Nick Newman as well is one of those players that's really, really gone up. But my name's Matt Cottrell.
Okay.
I think his season so far with the games that he's played, he's pretty much made himself almost a lock in the best 22. Of course, with Ollie Hollands playing in there, you don't really know what they're going to go with if Matt Cottrell's still going to get a game or if he's going to play as that half forward wing role. But I think with Cottrell, I think when he had a few games in the VFL and he kind of found his confidence, he really used that to then when he got that chance in the AFL, his football's been fantastic. I think he's had one off game, maybe two in a row, but I think the team overall was quite off. And when we're playing well, usually when we check the stats and usually when we think about the impact players had, Cottrell's almost at the top of the list. So I think he's been fantastic, and hopefully he can use his confidence to now go to that next level where he can be one of the best wingmans in the game. So now it's down to a bit of a prediction for the rest of the season. So who do you think, if you were to put one name into there, I guess, who will surprise you this season that might boost us in a way to charge towards the finals? One player who might surprise you in the second half of the season, David Boy, who would you say?
I think for me, it's Lockie Fogarty. I think he's, I like him up forward as a small forward. I think a lot of players, I kind of know what their second half of the year is going to be, whether it's a little bit of improvement or whatever. But I don't think he's played enough at the senior level, in my opinion, the last year. I don't know what's going on there, because clearly the small forward output has not been good enough all year, and he comes in for one game, and you look at the stats in terms of tackles inside 50 for not just him, but both him and Owies on the weekend.
Yeah,
their pressure was phenomenal. I think they worked extremely well together,
yeah,
which is a good sign for us. And I think it puts a lot of pressure on guys like Corey Durden and Jesse Motlop, because Motlop's 19, man. Like, he's got years, but I don't think there was weeks and weeks and weeks where he kept playing with little to no output. So hopefully Fogg gets a go for the next month or so. Obviously, depending on how he plays. Like, I'm not just going to keep him in the side just to be nice. But if he continues playing the way he does with his pressure inside 50, it's hopefully it's going to be a good end of the year for him.
Yeah, well said. Of course, also with Durden, like, he's 21. He's 21. These guys like Durden, Motlop, even Owies as well. Like, these guys, I mean, Owies is probably now one of those guys that is ahead of a Durden and a Motlop as in terms of goal kicking. Owies is probably that small forward that we really have wanted, and hopefully he can really try and use that confidence and the way that he's played in the seniors to stick in that best 22. But Durden and Motlop are so young. So I would rather almost want them just to kind of have a few years. I mean, maybe not a few years, but just get a new sense of coaching in the VFL.
Earn your spot.
Earn your spot, like earn your stripes in the in the AFL. But it's also down to, if you like, Harry Mackay is the one name that comes to mind where he had to go through the VFL to get that AFL spot because he earned his stripes to then go into the seniors and know that the coaches would rely on him, where he's done enough work in the VFL that he can trust that he's going to do whatever he's done in the VFL, he's going to do in the AFL. So I completely agree about the surprise player, Lockie Fogarty. That's the one guy when we wrote down this question, it was Lockie Fogarty straight away. I think he's that one player that looked really good last week in terms of not necessarily impact and stats, but it was more just structure, role player. That's what you've wanted. So now we'll move on to a bit of a recap of what we started with at the start of the season. Of course, we did a season predictions video. Make sure to check that out as well at the start of the year. We kind of predicted how Carlton will go, but we also did some AFL predictions as well. But to start off with our best and fairest, Daffy Boy, you chose Jacob Wienering. I chose Adam Chera. So, of course, Weeders has really started to find some form towards the probably the past 3 or 4 weeks. And, of course, Adam Chera's had a great season as well. If there was anyone else that might be in contention to be that best and fairest at the end of the year, who would you say?
Chera by a mile. I don't think anyone else is going to be close. Maybe Charlie. No, I don't think he will be consistently. I think Chera definitely consistently will get votes. And based on DNFs in the last few years, it's mainly been the consistent performers that tend to win votes. It's a little bit different to Brownlow votes. So they kind of rate. It's more internally how they rate their players as a club, which I actually rate higher sometimes than the Brownlow. So, obviously I was wrong with the Wienering. He has had a good month or so, but I'm looking forward to see how he goes, because obviously he had a tough first month. Well, his first month was okay. I think it was when that kind of middle part where we started to start losing games and the cracks started to appear and all the noise about him off field was starting to happen. But hopefully he has a good end of the year and get some votes for him.
Yeah, spot on. Of course, now we'll move on to the leading goal kicker. These were probably the two names that at the start of the season were our only chance to really be the leading goal kicker. So, of course, you chose Charlie Kerner. I think that's an absolute lock that he'll be our leading goal kicker. I chose Harry Mackay. Kind of off that practice game against Collingwood, he really impressed me. I was seeing, I'm like, this guy's dominating this game. What a season he's going to have ahead. But, of course, Harry Mackay's had a bit of a off patch throughout their season, like Jacob Wienering. He's had those 5 or 6 week block. And if they were both firing, who knows where we could have been in those games. So a few of our key names, and this is why Weeders and Mackay and even a Patrick Cripps as well, this is why when these guys aren't playing well, we don't play well as a team. So
Yeah.
that's why I think it's a big second half of the season, because it seems like Mackay's found a little bit of form. Weeders has found a little bit of form. Patrick Cripps has found a bit of form going off last week. You never know. You just never know. So leading goal kicker, I don't think you'll have to say much more for that, Duffy boys. So, of course, now we'll move on to most improved. I'll get you to go through who you chose at the start of the year.
Yeah, so we both chose Jesse Motlop as most improved. I think it was just off the back of his kind of last month of 2022. I thought he really came into his own and became that forward we know he can be. But yeah, for me, I think with Jesse, it's going to take time. I don't think it's going to take long patches in the twos. I think it's going to be maybe a few weeks and then come back in. But it's just going to be based off his performances and his output in the twos.
Yeah.
If you perform in the twos, you'll force your way in, whether whether they like it or not.
Yeah.
Obviously, Paddy has a different story, but with Motlop, I think if he's performing, kicking 2 threes, his tackle pressure is good inside 50, then he can come in.
Yeah.
I just think there was too many weeks there where you're hanging on with a few blokes, especially Ed Curnow, Motlop. That's where you start losing games, and you've got 5-6 blokes their output isn't good enough. I know you were talking about the key players, and obviously they were off clearly. But when your bottom half of your 22 in a game is a little bit off compared to the other team's bottom 22, then you're in trouble. So hopefully he comes back into the side and Jesse can stick the middle finger up at both of us and go, yep, I will be the most improved.
Completely spot on. Okay, so now we'll move on now to a bit of a segment that we touched on before with who we think might be the surprise pack in the second half of the season. But, of course, a player that we mentioned at the start of the year who we think might be a little bit of a surprise throughout their year. So, Duffy boy, who did you pick? And I think it's a pretty good pick.
Yeah, I think, or both of us picked the same bloke again. Which is fantastic. I'll just turn off that Facebook notification. Sorry, viewers. No, definitely Chincotta. We both picked Chincotta. I think he's definitely one of the surprise packets. I think you could probably include Brody Kemp in that conversation, and maybe I'm not sure. Maybe I guess Hollands. We didn't think he was going to play that often at the start of the year, but yeah, Chincotta for mine is definitely the right one for the surprise pack, and he looks extremely solid at AFL level. It'll be interesting come next year. I think he will re-sign. I'd imagine so. But come next year when Zach Williams is fit, how do they fit? Maybe both of them in, or maybe Chincotta is more of that depth kind of player.
Yeah, especially now because I mean, I think he's about 26 years old. I'll just check with you exactly how old he is, because I think so he's 26 now, and he's very much that mature sort of age where it's not like he's gonna. It's not like he has 10 years left in his career, but it's not like he's a rookie or a young sort of player. He's been in the VFL for almost pretty much 10 years. I mean, it's 8 years, but I think probably around 8 or 7 years. But he's played a lot of football around, of course, Carlton, but AFL players. And we mentioned last week about VFL players, and these guys improve anyway, even if they're not on an AFL list, because they're around AFL players. So the AFL players will kind of put them like they kind of taken that under their wing and kind of help them try and improve their football. And that's obviously what Chincotta has done. And I think it's great because right now he's really looked at home in the back line, and especially with the Zach Williams going down at the start of the year, we were crying out to who's going to step up, and Chincotta is that guy that's come in, and I think it's great. So absolute credit to him. So we'll now move on now to the Carlton letter position that we touched on at the start of the year. This is, of course, when Duffy and I were very much optimistic about what we were going to see. We were speaking about Premiership Cups in 2023. We were speaking about Brownlow medalist from Sam Walsh. We were speaking about Charlie Kerner as the common medalist. He's going to kick 100 goals in a season. But, of course, that hasn't come into what we've seen in the present time. But Carlton ladder position, Daff, where did you put the Carlton Football Club at the start of the year?
Well, to be honest, realistically, I probably underdid it. I reckon a lot of people picked us above what I've picked here with top 4. Seriously, with this list, we should be top 4. Should be.
Yeah.
But I obviously picked fifth, being safe, being a usual Carlton supporter, making sure we're not getting our expectations too high. But what are we now? 14th, nine positions lower with the players we have in our team. It's just not good enough currently, but hopefully we can fix it in the back end of the year, because I think if we do have a good back end of the year and make finals, you don't know what happens, Pato. I'm not talking premierships here. We can rule, I don't know, but if we get the finals, you don't know. It's just an even playing field. It gets to the finals. But I think if we have a good back end of the year compared to last year, then we can go into next year with no Collingwood last round in our heads.
Yeah.
Just a fresh, clean slate. Head into Richmond next year, round one, really hard. I know I hate talking about next year, but it does happen like that. A lot of teams fall. Look at Sydney. Had a bad grand final. Obviously, that was in the back of their heads over the summer. Where are they now? They are terrible. So you can talk about, they made the grand final, but what's that going to do? Are we trying to play football to win premierships or make grand finals?
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting second half of the year. Hopefully, we get a little bit closer to our ladder position predictions here.
I think the one thing that Carlton supporters are kind of asking for is just, I mean, I know that we don't really speak upon Carlton supporters, but us as supporters, I think what we see is just we want a good second half of the season. It doesn't matter if we make finals, of course, that's the aim. But just play good football. Even if we went through the year and we finished ninth again, yes, it would have sucked. It would have sucked, but just play a good brand of football. That's what we haven't seen the past 10 weeks, excluding last week. The past 10 weeks, we haven't played great football. It hasn't been appealing. It hasn't been pretty. It hasn't been the football of last year of what we've known.
No,
and it's just been disgusting, boring, stagnant. There's so many words to actually describe our game plan. And it's just unbelievable because of how crazy last year. And as you touched on then about Sydney, after their loss in the grand final, we had a similar experience with losing to an arch rival by a point to kick us out of finals. So, So I don't know, it's just a few things like that where it's just play a good brand of football to end the year. And we always say, who knows? Stranger things. Who knows? So we don't know what's going to come, and just get the job done. Do what you can do to make that happen. Who knows? We might win 9 in a row. We probably won't, but who knows? So, of course, now we'll touch on a bit of a longer segment, and of course, to touch on a few games in the next 9 rounds of if there is any possibility for us to make a charge towards the finals. This might be what might happen, and we just don't know what is going to happen, but we'll just go through the next 9 games, and we are just going to say if it's going to be a win or loss and who we think is going to win that game. So, of course, next week, Hawthorne v Carlton. Daff, win or loss?
Win.
I agree. We'll move on. If we lose next week to Hawthorne,
you can rule out anything. You can rule the season out. You can rule it out. People listening right now, rule it out. Do not say anything else about the season. Fuck them off. Rule it out,
and we might need to chuck Lockie Plowman on the table to get in Harley Reid. So we will now touch on the round 17 clash. Fremantle v Carlton at Optus Stadium. Daff, win or loss?
Doesn't matter where we're on the ladder. We play well against them in Perth. Win.
Win. I agree. So, the round 18 clash. Quite a tough one. Carlton v Port Adelaide at Marvel Stadium. Port are very good at Marvel. We aren't so great at Marvel. It was our fortress last year, but this year we haven't been so great. But if we get 3 or 4 wins on the trot, we could go into this game with a bit of a charge. We know that the supporters will show up. Daff, win or loss?
My heart is saying win, and I think we can.
Yep.
But I'm going to put it down as a loss. I think they're pretty solid, but Jesus, if we can play the way we did on the weekend, we can easily.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, so I think heart says win. Like deep down, we know we can do it. We know it. We know we can win this game.
Yep.
They're once again, think of it as they're coming into our territory.
Yes.
A bit like that. We aren't going into Adelaide's territory. They're coming to ours. Make it ours. So I'll put that down as a loss as well. So of course, the week after, I think this is if we lose this game, this might be the folding of the club, Daffy Boy. So Carlton v West Coast at Marvel Stadium, round 19, win or loss.
Win.
I'll put that as a loss.
Seriously, I hope it doesn't bite me in the ass, this comment, but if we can play the way we can against them at Marvel, we could score 200.
Next minute, Carlton.
Oscar Allen.
Oscar Allen kicks 34. He kicks 34 goals in the game. Okay, round 20. So this is a big one. Friday night football at the MCG against the arch rival. Again, we have another chance to beat the arch rivals and give the redemption back to them, as what we saw last year when they beat us. We need to give it back to them. Collingwood v Carlton at the MCG Friday night, round 20, Duffy Boy. Win or loss?
Win.
Wow.
We beat the Pies on a Friday night. Yep. And that will put the flag down and say we are making finals, because you look at the last 4 games and you go, Jesus.
Yeah.
Boys, this is it. This is it. And I'm telling you, they're a great side, Collingwood. I hate to say it, but if we, we'll have, based on my predictions before that game, would have Gold Coast win, Hawthorne win, Freo, small loss to Port, West Coast win, and then, you got 4-5 wins in a row heading into Collingwood, Pato, the MCG. If we play like that, if we play like that, we will beat them. We will beat them. You can clip this. If it's a Collingwood supporter listening to this right now, you can clip it like last year. Yeah. We will beat Collingwood round 20, whether we're making finals or not. We are going to beat them, Pato. Yeah. We are going to beat them. Put this on fucking TikTok.
Yeah. It doesn't matter if we lose to Hawthorn next week, then we'll lose to Freo the week after, Port by 150, West Coast we lose. We are going to win against the Collingwood. Nah, I have put this down as a loss. I'm going to stick down what.
Okay.
But that's a thing. I'm kind of thinking about it where if we can lose this game again against Collingwood.
Yeah, I know.
God. So that's a thing. Yeah. I'm going to stick to it as a loss. So moving now on to round 21. The big knock at the Marvel Stadium, St Kilda versus Carlton at Marvel Stadium, 3:20 on a Sunday afternoon. Daff, win or loss?
Loss.
Really?
We never beat them. It's my pet peeve going to Marvel Stadium and playing those fuckwits, because no matter what position they're in, they beat us. So I put that as a loss. I think it breaks the it's tough, but I'm putting it as a loss right now. Yeah. Because I feel like we're going to win games that we're going to be underdogs at in that month. Yeah. In terms of Hollywood and maybe the next one.
Yeah. See, I'll put that down as a win. I think in a sense of St Kilda always beat us, we need to break the streak.
Yeah.
Beat St Kilda, man. They're not that great. They're not. And the supporters piss me off.
Oh, yes.
Knock. They would lose to North Melbourne by 20, and they would go absolutely they wouldn't be seen. The week after, there would be 2,000 supporters there. Then if they beat Collingwood, there would be, out of nowhere, there would be 120,000 members at the St Kilda Football Club. I don't understand it. Yeah, St Kilda, we need to win that game. If we lose that game, doesn't matter if we're completely out of the race for finals, we need to win that game, because I don't want to hear that stupid knock thing anymore. I'm just about over it. So round 22. Round 22, Saturday night football against Melbourne Football Club, a team that we usually play quite well against. Daff, win or loss?
Win. We're not losing to them twice.
Yeah.
We're not losing to them twice. Like the Pies, we're not losing to them twice. Yeah. We can play better. And geez, you look at them last night, they're definitely beatable. I watch a fair bit of D's footy and they're beatable, Pato. They're beatable. I'm getting excited now, and I can't wait for our only win to be West Coast. Yeah. In that last 5 weeks. But no, D's win.
Yeah.
But like we've been saying, we're not here to be cocky. We genuinely believe these guys are capable of doing this. We're not trying to be like up ourselves or anything. 100% we're not. It's based off if they can perform the way they did last week. And that's a small sample size. So hopefully.
Yeah. Just the way you said, can't wait because our one game against West Coast and one game that we'll win for the rest of the year. West Coast at Melbourne Stadium, yes. All right. So I put this down as a win as well. Carlton v Melbourne. Okay. We can beat Melbourne. We can beat them.
Yes, we can.
Right, we match up very well against Melbourne. It doesn't matter if they have plenty of wins. We match up well against them. We saw it last year. We lost by 4 points. We saw it this year. We played like shit. They played like shit as well, but we lost by 17 points. So we can beat Melbourne. So that's the game. That's the one game that I'll put in this, probably the last 9 games. This is the upset. And I'll put this game as the upset. So round 23, Gold Coast versus Carlton at, it used to be called Metricon, but now it's called, I think, Heritage Bank Stadium.
Yeah.
It is, of course, Saturday, Arvo 2:10. Gold Coast versus Carlton. Daff, win or loss?
They scare me. Gold Coast. Yep. Especially there when it's a little bit dewy, when it's a little bit dewy on the ground. No, I've got it down as a win, but portion. Because that could be choking hazard type game in terms of we need to win 2 out of 2 to make finals and we lose the fucking Gold Coast. And then the next week's are dead rubber. So, Gold Coast win. Yeah,
I agree. I put us down to beat Gold Coast. I said at the start of the episode, I don't think it's a bit of a one where I don't think we necessarily perform well at Metricon Stadium, but we can beat Gold Coast. We saw it last week, and it doesn't matter if it's a bit dewy. We can still beat the Gold Coast Suns. So I put that down as a win. And of course, the last round, we don't know the times yet. We know that it's at Marvel against GWS. So Carlton v GWS. This might be a bit more of a prime time game because we don't know where we are going to be on the ladder. Carlton versus Giants at Marvel Stadium. Daff, win or loss?
We beat them away this year and we were shit. So if we can play half good against them at Marvel, now hopefully it's a game that means something because I don't want to go to the last round where it doesn't mean anything because how bad are they? They are the worst. Like, the season's over, gets to 3/4 time and you go, this is the last quarter of the season. I don't want to be thinking that. I want to be thinking, gee, who are we playing in 2 weeks' time in the fucking elimination final? Because Essendon, we're coming for you. We're fucking coming for you. But nah, I think the Giants will be a win and it'll lock into place and Marvel will be rocking. Yeah.
I have put this down as a win as well. So now it takes us to, I don't know about you, Daffy Boy. I think you had around the same wins as mine. So 7 wins out of the last 9. That means 12 wins. That means we have the draw as well. So in total, our points will be 50. And usually we don't know because of the extra round of football, because of the gather round. We don't know if that is enough to make the finals, but it usually is 12 wins.
I've just actually put it through a ladder prediction. I'm not saying Carlton. I just did an auto thing and it says that 8, 12 and 11. And we've got the draw.
12 and 11. Okay.
So we need 7 wins. So it says, I just did an auto prediction. It's not Carlton or anything. It's just says St Kilda 8. Right. Whatever.
Yeah.
St Kilda 8 with 12 and 11 and then 7th, Essendon 13 and 10. So realistically, it's a bugger that Richmond's close because they've got the draw on it too. So that might be a matter of percentage if we are close with Richmond. So yeah, it's going to be tough, Pato. It's going to be really, really tough. It's going to get real close, but why can't we do it, Pato? Why can't we?
That's the thing. So of course we finished with 50 points. So that's why it's going to be massive. But we can't get our hopes up until we play consistent 3 or 4 week, I guess, in that 3 or 4 weeks, we need to perform well enough that we are confident enough that our team will go out there and do their and do their thing. Like this is just do your thing. You know that and your football is enough to get the job done against most of the sides, if not all. So just go out there, have fun, but most importantly, get the win, because these supporters are backing you 110% every single week in, week out. So, of course, that wraps up the episode for the Baggers at the Bye. I think it was a bit of fun just going through, I guess, the negative sort of things throughout the season, but also touching on some individual performances throughout their season, because I think they need to be touched on. So, of course, there's nothing else to touch on for the segments, but Daffy Boy, is there anything else you want to touch on for the episode before we wrap it up?
Well, let's just hope it's a good end of the year, and it's one to remember. I think we can almost do the opposite of last year and start bad and get going, because we can. And I hope it isn't round 20 and the West Coast games are dead rubber at Marvel and knowing we can't make finals, because I've had too many of those feelings at games in terms of over the years, when you can't make finals and it's round 22 and it's like, geez, like, what is this win even for? Realistically, you get excited, like a win's good always, but let's just make the most of the opportunity we have right now and just play some good footy, because we need some laughs and some smiles on this fucking podcast, on these reviews, Pato. We're sick of going, Jesus, negatives. Is the coach gone? Is the captain gone? I want no questions. I want more answers, Pato. Second half of the year, I'm sure you agree too.
Yep, completely agree. Nothing else you really need to touch on there. Just, we say it every single week, I feel, is why do we have more questions than answers? And we're into year 8 of the rebuild. We're into season 2023. We're into a season where we are meant to be finals. And we just aren't near there. And we know that we are good enough. That's a thing. We know that. And it's just, right now, I don't like the feeling of hope. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I want the certainty. I want the certainty of going out there and you doing your job and know that that's good enough. And it's down to the opponent with what they respond with. So, to all the viewers, make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube. Make sure to also leave a comment with all your thoughts of how you think our season's gone so far. Of course, it's quite a negative, but also whatever we've gone through with the segments, make sure to also leave your opinion as well with who you think. All the segments that we've gone through, make sure to leave your thoughts on who you think has had a great season and some favourite games and also worst games that you've seen from the Carlton Football Club so far. But just know that the second half of the season, we just hope that it's going to be, once again, hope that it's going to be a great second half of the season. But we don't know, but we just hope and we always pray that the Carlton Football Club is going to go towards the end of the season and hopefully we are in the 8. So, Daff, absolute pleasure as always doing an episode with you. Make sure to also look out for next week, because that's when we will preview our game against Hawthorne. But as I said, all the viewers, like, comment, subscribe. Any podcast you see, any podcast platform you see us on, make sure to leave some love, leave a rating. And as always, to you, Daffy Boy, and to all the baggers out there, up the baggers!